Maker games, or games that have built-in level editors, are very novel in concept. Essentially, they offer the player a variety, or a slew, of level designs, assets, enemies, obstacles, all sorts of things that they can play around with to make their own levels and their own designs that essentially offers a degree of replayability unlike any other game. Chances are you've come across this kind of game once or twice, with games like Little Big Planet, any of the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games after 2, and one that I've recently discovered, Rollercoaster Tycoon. While it's certainly an easy and intuitive task to just work from the fabric or template of any game's creative boundaries, making a game from scratch, designing graphics, programming, composing the music, and all of that stuff, that is an entirely different ballpark altogether. So while everyone is raving and clamoring to get their copy of Super Mario Maker for the Wii U, I thought I'd take the time to look at Nintendo's other attempt at a game creator. Released way back into the year 2009, it was a game for the Nintendo DS simply called... I can't tap the screen. WarioWare D.I.Y. For those not in the know, WarioWare games are mostly minigame party game collections, but done in the best way possible. They're easy to pick up and play, they're quirky and all sorts of weird, you can play them at a frantic arcade type pace, and the minigames themselves last 8 to 16 seconds, and it's hella fun to play at a marathon. And after experimenting with all kinds of gameplay styles and control schemes, for better or for worse, the series has reached its ultimate creative high by letting you, yes you, the competent thinker and video game player, to create your own microgames. The premise is simple. After dreaming about video games coming to life before his very eyes, Dr. Krygor has created a new invention called the Super Maker-matic 21, which allows you to make games, compose music, and design comics all in one machine. You'll mainly focus on designing games through the Super Maker-matic's interface, designing sprites and objects, giving them animation, setting them up on stage, programming their behavior, composing the music, setting the goals, and ultimately developing your game, which turns out to be a Famicom cartridge. Region lock agenda? Anyways, let's break down each of these editors one by one, because as simple as the games turn out to be, the creation process behind it is actually pretty complex. The Graphical Editor lets you draw and sketch graphics for objects in the background of your microgames. Objects can range from small 16x16 sizes to large 256x256 sprites, and there's actually a plentiful amount of painting tools to play around with. You got your standard painting tools, your brushes, your paint buckets, and your line tools, but you also have a wide array of colors and textures to choose from, including custom patterns that you can create yourself. Not to mention, creating detailed backgrounds or sprites is a piece of cake when using the handy zoom features and editing the object pixel by pixel. Then there's the Programming Editor, and this is where the real fun begins. You basically assign commands to objects for the duration of the minigame. For example, telling them to move in one direction, or shake around in place, play an animation when they're tapped on, or even react to when other objects come in contact with it. Determining the goal of the minigame depends on a switch system, where each object has a switch that can be activated if certain commands are met. I can't exactly explain every single one of the commands and all of the technical things that you can do at once, but I'll just leave it by saying that you can easily play around with all of these commands to make the gameplay out to your liking, like as if you're directing the script for a play or something. The Music Editor is your standard music creator. You can add notes to the track based on the keyboard layout, alter the notes to play by a different soundboard to make them sound 8-bit or spacey, and there's even an option to use your voice to hum out the notes, which does work for getting notes down if you're not a note aficionado. Once again, I'm skimming through the various options that you can play with, but I'll just leave it by saying that it's very technical but still fun to play around with. Chances are if you're looking at these editing tools and the interfaces, you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, this sounds all familiar. Surely there wasn't some other Nintendo game where you could create and edit things. This game was meant to be a spiritual successor to the original Mario Paint on the Super Nintendo, including all of its painting, animation, and music tools, but expanded even further with the advent of game creating. It's actually pretty freaking cool to hear what was originally a novelty art tool for kids, now giving the possibility of creating entire games. Or at least 8 to 16 second games. Once you've created your game, you can get the chance to play them at the shop. If you make enough of them, you can play them all in the set, like a stage in a regular WarioWare game. I actually managed to keep some of the old games that I made a few years back, and let me say, I had a lot of imagination back then. Like, a lot. But just in case you're not really feeling like playing your old abomination, I mean microgames, WarioWare D.I.Y has 90 built-in microgames starring the WarioWare characters themselves for you to enjoy. As to be expected from the developers, they're very fun and addicting to play, but the coolest thing about them is having the ability to take any background or object from any of these microgames and customizing it to use in your own user-generated games. I find this to be a great feature to obtain some good assets, and you can even look at the commands built into these microgames to see just how technical they really got. So there's quite a bit of content and complexity packed into this one game, but it doesn't end there, because you can even play your created microgames on the big screen by linking your game to the WiiWare title WarioWare D.I.Y Showcase. Not only is it pretty cool to see and play your games you originally created on a smaller screen into a higher resolution, but there's even built-in microgames made by the developers once again. In fact, there was even online special events and competitions where they would offer user-generated microgames from developers and other players that you could download and play for yourself. But unfortunately, that is all null and void since the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection servers have dropped out a while back. WarioWare D.I.Y is a surprisingly really robust game creator tool. It's both technical to use, but simple enough for people to enjoy. But if you ask me, the amount of enjoyment you'll get out of this game really depends on how creative of a person you are. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to judge anyone's artistic integrity, but really, it's hard for me to review creator games like this without saying things like, the game creator tools work really well and flow with each other perfectly. There's enough built-in content, including the microgames, the records, and the actually pretty funny to read comics. And honestly, if I had one minor complaint to say about this game, I'd say that I wish you could do more in these microgames other than just tapping, especially after they've shown what they were capable of doing with the DS in WarioWare Touched. Honestly, the built-in content may last you over for a while, but if you're someone who's really into game designing, graphic designing, musical composing, then this is the game for you. It will give you hours upon hours of replayability. And hopefully, with the success of Super Mario Maker for the Wii U, we can see this game make some sort of comeback with an even bigger online community. Or they could just keep making tech demos with the WarioWare characters. That's fine by me too. Nintendo, please bring Earth and Heaven 3DS here.